The hollow crack of a 300 Win mag echoed across the mountain range, followed immediately by Lieutenant Commander Hutchins's sharp bark of laughter, a sound that cut through the October cold like a second gunshot. Riley Vaughn didn't flinch. Her hands continued their steady work on the target mechanism at the 800-meter line, fingers adjusting the ballistic computer with the kind of precision that comes from thousands of repetitions. The wind bit through her oversized maintenance coveralls, carrying voices from the firing line behind her. "Check it out," someone said. "Little maintenance girl thinks she understands ballistics." It was 0730 hours at the Marine Corps Mountain Warfare Training Center in Bridgeport, California. The elevation sat at 6,800 feet, and the temperature hovered just above freezing. Riley had been servicing the target systems since 0600, alone with the mountains and the wind. That solitude ended when the morning training rotation arrived. 45 people now occupied the range. 12 SEAL candidates from Coronado, 18 Marine Scout sniper students, 8 instructors, 7 support staff, and every single one of them was about to watch her get humiliated. Lieutenant Commander Derek Hutchins approached with a coffee in one hand and confidence in every step. 6'1", 195 pounds, perfectly maintained beard, the kind of man who knew he owned whatever room he entered. Behind him came Staff Sergeant Brian Cole, stocky, shaved head, arms covered in tattoos, and Petty Officer First Class Jennifer Park, her dark hair pulled into a regulation bun so tight it looked painful. "Hey, sweetheart," Hutchins called out, his voice carrying across the range. "That's a ballistic computer, not a tablet. Need me to explain what those numbers mean?" Riley's fingers paused for half a second, then continued their work. She didn't look up. Cole laughed, the sound harsh. "I don't think she speaks English, sir." Park added, "All these big, scary rifles around." Riley adjusted the final calibration on the target sensor. The mechanism clicked into place with satisfying precision. She picked up her toolbox, a battered metal case covered in grease stains, and turned to leave. Hutchins stepped into her path. "Whoa, hold up there. I asked you a question." His smile was wide and utterly without warmth. "What's a maintenance tech doing with military equipment? This is precision gear, not a dishwasher." Behind him, phones came up, students filming. This was entertainment. Riley stood 5'3" in her work boots. Next to Hutchins, she looked like a child. Her dark brown hair was cut short, practical, and her face was carefully blank. At 118 pounds, she'd learned long ago that sometimes the best defense was to appear harmless. "Just doing my job, sir," she said quietly. "Sir?" Cole stepped closer. "You don't call civilians sir, sweetheart. That's stolen valor territory." She replied. She tried to step around them. Park moved to block her other side. "What kind of habit? You date a lot of military guys? Learn some words? Think you're part of the club?" From the firing line, Master Gunnery Sergeant Frank Holloway watched the interaction with narrowed eyes. 28 years in the Marine Corps had given him an instinct for reading people. Something about the way Riley held that toolbox bothered him. The grip was too controlled, knuckles aligned, elbows at efficient angles, weight distributed through her core, not her arms. That wasn't how civilians carried things. "I need to get these tools back to the shop," Riley said. Her voice remained level, but Holloway noticed her breathing had changed. Slow, measured, combat breathing. "In a minute," Hutchins said. He gestured toward the range. "First, educate me. Those targets you were adjusting, what distance are they calibrated for?" Riley's jaw tightened. 800 meters. "And what's the elevation here?" 6,800 feet. "Wind speed?" "Currently 15 to 20 miles per hour, gusting from the northwest." Hutchins blinked. Cole and Park exchanged glances. "Lucky guess," muttered. "How much does elevation affect bullet trajectory at this range?" Riley's gray eyes met him for the first time. "Depends on the round. M118LR at this altitude loses approximately 8% velocity compared to sea level. Requires 2.3 MOA elevation adjustment at 800 meters to compensate. The silence lasted 3 seconds. Then Hutchins laughed. Oh, she's good. She's really good. Memorized some numbers, probably heard them from whatever grunt she's sleeping with. The crowd around them had grown. 50 people now, students drifting over from other firing lines. This was better than training. What's your name? Park asked. Riley. Riley what? Vaughn. Well, Riley Vaughn. Maybe you should stick to fixing things and leave the technical knowledge to the professionals. Park's smile was razor sharp. Wouldn't want you to hurt yourself trying to understand things above your pay grade. Riley said nothing. She adjusted her grip on the toolbox, preparing to push through them. That's when Park kicked it. The toolbox flew from Riley's hands, crashed against the concrete pad. The lid popped open. Screws, Allen wrenches, calibration tools scattered across the ground. A small torque wrench rolled toward the edge of the platform, teetered, fell into the dirt below. Oops, Park said. Butterfingers. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Phones captured everything. Riley stood motionless for 5 seconds. Her hands, empty now, remained in the exact position they'd held the toolbox. Holloway saw her right thumb twitch, muscle memory, reaching for something that wasn't there. Then she knelt. Slowly, methodically, she began collecting the scattered tools. You know what I think? Cole crouched beside her, his voice mockingly gentle. I think you're one of those stolen valor types. Throw around some military terms, wear the gear, collect free meals on Veterans Day. Riley's hand closed around a socket wrench. Her knuckles went white. Or maybe, Hutchins said, louder now, performing for his audience, maybe she's just groupie adjacent. Hangs around bases, absorbs vocabulary, thinks it makes her special. Bennett, a lance corporal standing near the back, shifted uncomfortably. Sir, maybe you should shut up, Boot. Cole snapped without looking back. Riley gathered the last tool. She closed the toolbox. Stood. Her coveralls had grease on both knees now. A smudge of oil marked her left cheek where she'd unconsciously touched her face. She looked small, defeated, exactly what they wanted. Nothing to say? Hutchins asked. No more Wikipedia facts to impress us with? Riley met his eyes again. Something flickered in her expression, there and gone so fast Holloway almost missed it. Rage. Absolute, controlled, professional rage. Then it vanished behind the blank mask. Excuse me, sir, she said quietly, and walked away. The crowd parted. Laughter followed her across the range. Someone shouted, "Better luck next time, Boot!" Holloway watched her go. Watched the way she moved, economical steps, perfect posture despite the heavy toolbox, situational awareness that had her tracking every person in her peripheral vision. 28 years of experience whispered a warning in his gut. That wasn't a maintenance technician. He didn't know what she was, but he'd just watched something very dangerous pretend to be harmless. Riley disappeared into the equipment shed. The door closed behind her with a hollow metal bang. On the range, Hutchins turned back to his students, grinning. All right, show's over. Let's get to work. We've got actual warriors to train. The training rotation moved indoors at 0815 hours. The armory was a concrete block structure that smelled like gun oil and cold metal. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows across rows of weapon racks. This was restricted space. Only personnel with proper clearance allowed. Riley entered through the maintenance access, carrying a work order. The heating system in the armory had been malfunctioning. She'd been called to inspect it. Hutchins stood at the center table with Cole and Park, surrounded by 20 students. Various weapons lay disassembled before them. M4 carbines, MK-13 sniper rifles, equipment for the day's training on weapon systems and maintenance. Well, well, Cole said when he spotted her. Look who followed us. Riley kept her eyes down, moved toward the HVAC panel on the far wall. She carried a different toolbox now, smaller, with diagnostic equipment visible inside. Hold on, Hutchins called out. This is a restricted area. Maintenance doesn't have clearance for weapon spaces. I have a work order, sir. Riley pulled a laminated card from her pocket without stopping. HVAC repair, heating systems failing. Park moved to intercept her. Let me see that clearance. Riley handed over her ID badge. Park examined it with exaggerated care, then looked at Hutchins. Says she's cleared for facility maintenance access. That doesn't mean she should be around sensitive equipment, Cole muttered. Riley reached the HVAC panel, set down her toolbox. She began removing the access cover with efficient movements. The conversation continued behind her, but she tuned it out. Professional. Invisible. Hutchins returned to his instruction. As I was saying, proper weapon identification is critical. This here is the Mk13 Mod 5, chambered in .300 Winchester Magnum. Standard issue for, that's a Mod 7, Riley said. The words came out automatically. Quiet. Almost inaudible. But in the concrete room, they carried. Hutchins stopped mid-sentence. Excuse me? Riley froze. Her hand still held the screwdriver she'd been using. She hadn't meant to speak. The correction had been pure reflex, hearing something wrong, fixing it. The same instinct that had gotten her in trouble 100 times before. What did you just say? Hutchins' voice dropped to a dangerous level. Riley turned slowly. Every eye in the room was on her. Nothing, sir. My mistake. No, please, enlighten us. Hutchins picked up the rifle, held it toward her. You think you know better than a Navy SEAL? Park laughed. This should be good. Riley's jaw worked. I apologize. I shouldn't have spoken. But you did speak, so explain yourself. Hutchins walked closer. What makes you think this isn't a Mod 5? The silence stretched. Riley could walk away, should walk away. But something in Hutchins' smirk, in the way Park whispered to a student beside her, in how Cole filmed this on his phone, something snapped. The barrel contour is different, Riley said quietly. Mod 7 has a heavier profile. The muzzle brake is the Badger Ordnance FTE, not the standard AAC suppressor mount. And the stock is an AICS 2.0, not the original HS Precision. Dead silence. Hutchins stared at her, then at the rifle, then back at her. How the hell? Cole started. She probably looked it up online, Park cut in quickly. Google exists. Right. Hutchins set the rifle down with exaggerated care. Our little maintenance girl likes to study military hardware in her spare time? How dedicated. But his voice had lost some of its confidence. Riley saw it. So did Holloway, standing near the back with his arms crossed. You want to teach a Navy SEAL about weapons? That what you think you're qualified to do? No, sir. Then maybe you should shut your mouth and fix whatever you came here to fix. Riley turned back to the HVAC panel. Her hands shook slightly as she picked up the screwdriver. Behind her, whispers started. Sir, Bennett said, his voice uncertain, maybe she has experience we don't know about. Lance Corporal, Hutchins snapped. Did I ask for your input? No, sir. Then drop and give me 50. Right now. Bennett's face flushed, but he dropped to the concrete floor and began pushing. The room filled with the sound of his breathing, the slap of his palms against cold stone. Riley's screwdriver slipped. It clattered against the metal panel with a sharp ring. She retrieved it, forced her hand steady. Cole approached her from behind. She heard his boots, knew he was close, even before he spoke. You know what I think? His voice was low, meant only for her. I think you're playing some kind of game, acting smart, showing off, probably trying to get attention from real operators. Riley said nothing. She reconnected a wire inside the HVAC panel with precise movements. Or maybe, Cole continued, you're just another stolen valor case. Learn some facts, throw around terminology, hope nobody calls you on it. Her breathing changed. Holloway noticed it from across the room. 4 counts in, hold for 4, 4 counts out. That was combat breathing. That was what you taught operators to manage stress and maintain fine motor control under pressure. Cole reached past her, deliberately knocking her toolbox with his elbow. Coffee from his thermos sloshed out, he'd been holding it in his other hand, and splashed across her coveralls. Hot liquid soaked through the fabric. "Oops," he said. "Clumsy me." Riley stood completely still. The coffee was hot enough to burn. She felt it spreading across her shoulder, down her arm. But she didn't move, didn't react. Her eyes stayed fixed on the HVAC panel, though Holloway could see from her reflection in the metal surface that her pupils had dilated. Fight or flight response. Adrenaline dump. Carefully controlled. "Cole, get back over here," Hutchins called. "Let the help do her job." Cole walked away laughing. Riley slowly wiped the coffee off with a rag from her toolbox. Her hands were steady now, preternaturally steady. She finished the HVAC repair in silence. The heating system hummed back to life. Warm air began flowing through the vents. Riley packed her tools with mechanical precision. Every item in its designated space, no wasted movement. She stood, picked up the toolbox, turned toward the door. That's when Hutchins accidentally tossed an M4 carbine toward Cole, but his throw went wide. The rifle tumbled through the air, falling toward the concrete floor where it would hit and potentially damage the optic. Riley moved. Her toolbox hit the floor. She covered the distance in 2 steps. Her hand shot out and caught the M4 by the magwell, the magazine well, with perfect weapon safety. Her trigger finger automatically indexed along the receiver, not touching the trigger guard. Her support hand came up to the handguard, elbows bent at proper angles, muzzle pointed in a safe direction. The entire movement took 1.2 seconds. She stood there holding a ready rifle in textbook stance. Every single person in that room who'd completed infantry training recognized it instantly. That wasn't a lucky catch. That was muscle memory. That was thousands of repetitions burned into neural pathways until the movements became automatic. Riley's eyes went wide. She'd moved without thinking, pure reflex. She quickly handed the rifle to Cole, who took it with a confused expression. "Thanks," he said, slowly. Riley grabbed her toolbox and walked out, fast. Not quite running, but close. The door closed behind her. In the armory, nobody spoke for 5 seconds. Then Hutchins laughed, but it sounded forced. "Well, guess she's got decent reflexes. Probably played softball or something." But Holloway saw the look on Cole's face, saw Park chewing her lip. They'd noticed. Maybe not consciously, but some part of their trained brains had recognized what they'd just witnessed. Bennett finished his push-ups and stood, breathing hard. He looked toward the door Riley had exited through, then at Hutchins. "Sir," he said quietly, "that catch? That was—" "Shut up, Bennett." Outside, Riley leaned against the armory wall, her heart hammered. Stupid, stupid, stupid. She'd blown her cover twice now. First, the rifle identification, then the catch. Amateur mistakes. She closed her eyes and saw 6 faces. Jackson, Torres, Kim, Ramirez, Wright, Martinez. Her team. Dead because she'd survived. Dead because she'd been better at staying alive than they had been. She pushed off the wall and walked toward the maintenance shed. Behind her, through the armory's small windows, she could see Hutchins resuming his instruction. But Holloway stood apart from the group, arms crossed, staring at the door she'd exited through. His weathered face showed no expression, but his eyes were calculating. At 0900 hours, the training moved back to the outdoor range. The temperature had dropped another 3 degrees. Wind gusted at 20 miles per hour now, sharp enough to sting exposed skin. Perfect conditions for advanced marksmanship training. Terrible conditions for anyone without experience. Riley had hoped they'd forget about her. She'd retreated to the maintenance shed, buried herself in paperwork, stayed invisible. But at 8:45, her supervisor called. The range officer needed someone to monitor target systems during live fire.
everyone else was busy. So she found herself back at the range, carrying a tablet linked to the electronic targets, trying to stay out of sight behind the control booth. Hutchins spotted her immediately. "Look who came back," he announced to the crowd. 60 people now. Word had spread about the morning's entertainment, and off-duty personnel had drifted over to watch the training. Our resident weapons expert. Riley kept her eyes on the tablet. The targets at 600 meters showed green status. All systems functional. "Hey, Vaughn." Hutchins walked toward her. "Since you know so much about rifles, how about a demonstration?" Riley looked up. "Sir, I'm just here to monitor the equipment." "I'm sure you can multitask." His smile was predatory. "Come on, you corrected me on weapon identification. You caught that rifle like a pro. Let's see if you can actually shoot." The crowd shifted closer. Phones came out. This was going to be good. "I'm not qualified on this range, sir," Riley said carefully. "That's fine. This isn't official. Just a friendly demonstration." Hutchins picked up an M11 SAS from the equipment table, a semi-automatic sniper system chambered in 7.62 mil. Simple challenge. Hit the target at 600 meters. One shot. If you can do it, I'll apologize for this morning. Publicly, right here in front of everyone. Park grinned. "And if she misses?" "If she misses, she's banned from all training areas permanently. We don't need groupies and wannabes cluttering up our workspace." Hutchins held out the rifle. "What do you say, Vaughn? Put up or shut up?" Riley stared at the weapon, at Hutchins, at the growing crowd. She could refuse, should refuse, walk away, keep her head down, maintain her cover. But something in his expression, that absolute certainty that she'd fail, that smug confidence, ignited something she'd been trying to suppress for 8 months. "Okay," she said quietly. Hutchins blinked. He'd expected her to refuse. "Okay. One shot, 600 meters. If I hit, you apologize. If I miss, I stay away from training areas." "Deal." Hutchins handed her the rifle. Riley took it. The weight felt familiar, too familiar. She'd carried weapons like this for 6 years. A weapon
Across 3 continents, through situations these students couldn't imagine. The M110 was an old friend, and that terrified her. Cole stepped forward. "Here, let me help you." He adjusted the scope mounting rings, his hands moving in ways Riley immediately recognized. He was loosening them. Not much, just enough that the scope would shift under recoil. A sabotaged weapon. "There you go," Cole said with a smile. "All set." Riley accepted the rifle back. She ran her thumb along the scope mount, felt the play in the rings. Loose, maybe 2 turns on each screw. Enough to throw off the zero by several inches at 600 meters. She said nothing. The crowd formed a semicircle behind the firing line. Holloway stood at the edge, arms still crossed, watching everything with those calculating eyes. Riley walked to the 600-meter shooting position. The wind hit her full force here, no windbreak from the control booth. 20 miles per hour, gusting higher. Northwest wind, quartering across the range. Temperature 38 degrees. Barometric pressure lower than sea level due to elevation. She knelt beside the shooting mat, began setting up. The crowd whispered behind her. "She doesn't even know proper prone position," someone muttered. But Holloway saw it differently. He saw Riley check the chamber, smooth, professional. Saw her test the bolt action, firm pull, no wasted movement. Saw her settle into position with spine alignment that textbooks couldn't teach, the kind of body mechanics that only came from thousands of rounds downrange. Her support elbow was positioned perfectly, her firing elbow high enough to open the chest cavity for breathing, but not so high as to cause muscle fatigue. Her cheek weld on the stock was consistent, her legs splayed at angles that distributed weight and absorbed recoil. "That's not beginner posture," Holloway murmured to himself. Riley closed her eyes, breathed. 4 counts in, hold, 4 counts out. She'd done this 1,000 times before. In Afghanistan, in Syria, in places with no names where people died quietly and the world never knew. She opened her eyes, looked downrange at the target,
a black silhouette against brown earth, barely visible at 600 meters, even with magnification. She adjusted the scope, felt the loose mounting rings shift, did quick math in her head. If the rings were loose by approximately 2 turns, the scope would cant right under recoil. She'd need to compensate by holding left. Wind was quartering from the northwest at 20 miles per hour. Call it a 15-mile-per-hour crosswind component. 7.62 mm at 600 meters with that wind meant approximately 18 inches of drift. Hold right to compensate, but the loose scope meant hold left. The two factors would partially cancel out. She could call them out, tell everyone the weapon was sabotaged, but that would just give them an excuse. Oh, she's making excuses before she even shoots. Better to just compensate. Riley settled in, found her natural respiratory pause, the moment between breaths where the body is completely still. That's when you pressed the trigger. Not pulled, not squeezed, pressed. Like pushing a button. Smooth, straight back, no lateral movement. She found the pause. Pressed. The rifle cracked. Recoil punched into her shoulder. The scope did exactly what she'd predicted, canted right as the mounting rings shifted, but the bullet had already left the barrel. Downrange, the electronic target flashed. Hit registered. Riley stood, safed the weapon, walked back to the line, handed the rifle to Hutchins without a word. Cole pulled up the target results on his tablet. His face went pale. 2 inches from center, at 600 meters. The crowd erupted in whispers. Hutchins stared at the tablet, then at Riley, then back at the tablet. Time from position to shot was 14 seconds, Holloway announced. He'd been timing it on his watch. SEAL qualification standard for that distance is 18 to 20 seconds. Lucky shot, Park said quickly. Wind probably pushed it where she wanted by accident. Hutchins' jaw tightened, his eyes narrowed. Do it again. 800 meters this time. Riley turned to look at him. That wasn't our deal. Deal's changed. You got lucky. Prove it wasn't a fluke. Hit it 800, then I'll apologize. And if I hit it 800, then I'll admit you know what you're doing. Full apology, written recommendation to keep you in any training area you want. But you have to hit center mass, not just anywhere on the target. Riley studied him, saw the desperation in his eyes. He needed her to fail, needed to maintain his authority, his dominance, his world where civilians stayed in their place, and he remained on top. Okay, she said, 800 meters, center mass. She walked to the 800-meter line without waiting for a response. Behind her,
Crowd followed like a wave. 60 people became 70. Someone had radioed others. This was the most interesting thing to happen at the training center in months. Hutchins handed her a different rifle, an Mk13 Mod 7, bolt-action, 300 Winchester Magnum. This one he'd checked himself, no sabotage. He wanted to see her fail on a fair weapon. Riley took position again, 800 meters. Wind had increased to 25 miles per hour, temperature dropping, light beginning to shift as clouds moved across the sun. She settled into position, found her breathing pattern, calculated windage, elevation, temperature compensation. The numbers came automatically, years of training and experience making the complex math instinctive. She found the pause between breaths, pressed. The rifle roared, bigger caliber, bigger recoil. Riley absorbed it perfectly, body position optimized to distribute the force. Downrange, the target flashed. Cole checked his tablet, didn't speak. Well, Hutchins demanded. Cole turned the tablet around. Center mass, 3-inch group from perfect center. 12.8 seconds, Holloway announced. That's faster than most of our instructors. Absolute silence. 70 people, not one of them speaking. Riley stood, safed the weapon, walked back and handed it to Hutchins. Apology accepted, sir, she said quietly, then turned to walk away. Wait. Hutchins's voice cracked like a whip. We're not done. Riley stopped, turned. Hutchins's face had gone red. His hands shook slightly. He was losing control and he knew it. One more test. Field strip. M4 carbine, blindfolded.
If you're really trained, you can do it in under 60 seconds. That wasn't, do it or the deal's off. I'll have you banned anyway. Call your supervisor, tell them you're creating disruptions. Before we see what happens next, if you've ever been underestimated at work, hit that subscribe button and leave a comment about how you proved them wrong. Your story matters. Now, back to Riley. Riley stood motionless for 3 seconds. The M4 carbine lay on the table between her and Hutchins. A blindfold, black fabric, standard issue, sat beside it. 70 people watched, waited. Phones recorded everything. Well, Hutchins pressed, unless you want to admit you've been faking this whole time. Riley reached for the blindfold. Her hands didn't shake. She tied it around her eyes, pulling it tight enough that no light penetrated. The world went black. She heard everything now. Wind against the range building. Someone's nervous breathing. The electronic hum of the target systems. Her own heartbeat, steady and slow. Her hands found the M4. Cold metal, familiar weight. She'd done this drill hundreds of times. In training, in the field, in the dark of a Syrian safe house while mortars fell outside. Her fingers moved. Upper receiver separated from lower. Charging handle withdrawn. Bolt carrier group removed. Firing pin retaining pin extracted. Firing pin pulled free. Cam pin rotated and removed. Bolt separated from carrier. Her movements were economical, no wasted motion. Each piece placed in sequence on the table. She could feel the slight variations in the metal surface, knew exactly where each component sat. 47 seconds. She began reassembly. Bolt into carrier. Cam pin seated and rotated. Firing pin inserted. Retaining pin pressed home. Bolt carrier group into upper receiver. Charging handle reinserted. Upper and lower receivers joined. Function check. Trigger pulled on empty chamber. Bolt released. Perfect mechanical sound. She removed the blindfold. Cole stared at his stopwatch. 47 seconds. MARSOC standard is 60 seconds, Holloway said quietly. Force Recon is 55. She just beat both. The crowd pressed closer. Someone whispered, "How the hell did she do that?" Hutchins grabbed the M4, checked it. Properly assembled, functional. He set it down harder than necessary. "Fine, you've done some training. Boyfriend probably taught you. Party trick." "That's not a party trick," Bennett said. His voice carried despite trying to keep it low. "Sir, that's—" "Shut up, Bennett." But others were talking now. Instructors, senior enlisted, people who'd spent careers in combat arms. They recognized what they'd seen. "Next test," Hutchins said loudly, cutting through the chatter. "Moving target, 600 meters. Target will be on the motorized sled. 15-mile-per-hour crosswind. One shot." Park set up the system. The target, a full-size silhouette, began moving laterally across the range, pulled by cables at approximately 5 miles per hour. At 600 meters, that target was barely visible, and hitting something moving at that distance required calculating lead time, wind drift, and bullet travel. Riley took position, Mk-13 again. She settled in, watching the target traverse left to right.
He controlled her breathing, found the pattern. The target moved in predictable rhythm. 5 miles per hour meant approximately 7 feet per second. Bullet travel time at 600 meters was roughly 1 second. Lead the target by 7 feet. Factor in the crosswind pushing right. Factor in the temperature drop. Factor in the scope's particular zero. She found the moment between heartbeats. The world narrowed. Target, reticle, wind, distance, time. She pressed the trigger. The rifle fired. 1 second of flight time. The target flashed. Direct hit, center mass. Holloway stared. That shot was impossible. He'd been a scout sniper for 12 years before moving to Force Recon, and he'd seen maybe 3 people in his entire career make that shot on the first try. "Check the weapon," Cole demanded. "She's using something modified." Hutchins examined the Mk-13. Stock configuration, no modifications, no special optics, just a standard rifle. Riley stood. She hadn't spoken during any of the tests,
hadn't celebrated, just executed the task and waited. Her face remained blank, but Holloway noticed something now. Noticed the way she held herself, the way her eyes tracked every person around her, cataloging threats, measuring distances, identifying cover. That was operator mindset. That was someone who'd been in situations where awareness meant survival. "One more," Hutchins said. His voice had lost its swagger. Now it just sounded desperate. "Barrett M107A1. 1,000 meters. That's a .50 caliber, heavy recoil. Most men can't handle it without training." The Barrett lay on its case like a sleeping predator. Massive, intimidating. At 28 pounds, the rifle was designed for vehicle-mounted or supported fire. Shooting it from prone position required strength and technique. Riley walked to it, looked down at the massive weapon. Her reflection stared back from the black metal. She picked it up, not struggling, not straining, just lifted it with proper body mechanics and carried it to the shooting position. The crowd had grown to over 80 now. People emerging from buildings, drawn by rumors of what was happening at the range. Riley set up the Barrett, extended the bipod, settled into position. The rifle dwarfed her small frame. "This is going to be good," Park whispered to Cole. "That recoil's going to knock her back 10 feet. Riley loaded a 50 BMG round, chambered it. The bolt closed with a mechanical slam that echoed across the range. She acquired the target at 1,000 meters, a full-size silhouette, barely distinguishable from the background terrain. Her breathing slowed. 4 counts in, hold, 4 counts out. But something else happened too. Something Holloway recognized from years of watching elite shooters. Riley went completely still. Not normal still, predator still. The kind of motionless that came from absolute body control. No fidgeting, no micro-movements, no unconscious adjustments. Her entire being focused into a single point of intent. That was Ghost Protocol. Holloway had only seen it twice in 28 years. Once from a MARSOC sniper in Afghanistan, once from a DevGru operator in Iraq. It was a classified technique, taught only to Tier 1 counter-sniper specialists. The method involved breath control so refined, trigger manipulation so precise, that the shooter became invisible to counter-battery systems. No muzzle flash signature, no scope glint, no movement to draw enemy eyes. And this maintenance technician was doing it? Riley pressed the trigger. The Barrett roared, massive muzzle blast, enormous recoil. Riley absorbed it perfectly. Her body position optimized to channel the force through her skeleton and into the ground. She didn't move back, didn't flinch, just rode the recoil like she'd done it 1,000 times. Because she had. Downrange, the target flashed. Cole checked the tablet with shaking hands. Center mass, direct hit. The silence was absolute. Even the wind seemed to quiet. Hutchins stared at Riley. His face had gone from red to pale. "Who are you?" Riley safed the Barrett, stood, began breaking down the weapon with the same professional movements she'd shown with the M4. That's when the wind caught her coverall sleeve. The fabric pulled back, exposing her right forearm for just 2 seconds. Tattoo. Partial view. Crossed rifles over a parachute. Below it, barely visible, numbers. 2-2. 2nd Battalion, 2nd Marine Regiment. But that wasn't a regular infantry unit tattoo. The design was specific. Holloway knew it because he'd seen similar ink on operators at Quantico. MARSOC, Marine Special Operations Command. Park saw it too. Her eyes went wide. "Wait, that's..." Riley yanked her sleeve down, zipped her coverall higher. But the damage was done. Cole stepped closer, got in her face. "Is that a unit tattoo? Are you claiming to..."
"MARSOC?" Riley said nothing. She finished securing the Barrett and its case. "Answer me!" Cole's voice pitched higher. "That's stolen valor. That's a federal crime. You're impersonating a special operations soldier." "I haven't claimed anything," Riley said quietly. "You challenged me. I shot. That's all." "That ink says different." Cole grabbed her arm. Riley moved. Her hand intercepted his wrist, redirected, applied leverage. Cole found himself turned around, his own arm bent behind his back at a painful angle, controlled by someone half his size using a joint lock that MCMAC, Marine Corps Martial Arts Program, taught at advanced levels. She released him immediately, stepped back. Cole spun around, face flushed. "You just assaulted a staff sergeant!" "You grabbed me first," Riley said. Her voice remained level, but something had changed in her eyes. The blankness was gone. Now there was edge, warning. "Don't touch me again." Hutchins pushed between them. "Enough. Vaughn, you need to explain yourself right now. That tattoo, those skills, who the hell are you really?" Riley looked at him, at the crowd, at the phones, recording everything, at Holloway, who stood at the back with knowing eyes. "I'm maintenance," she said. "That's all you need to know." "That's not good enough." Hutchins pulled out his phone. "I'm calling the MPs. If you're impersonating military, you're going to jail. If you're not, you're going to explain why you have classified operator skills." Riley's jaw tightened. She could run, could disappear. She'd done it before. But something stopped her. Maybe exhaustion. Maybe the weight of 8 months pretending to be someone else. Maybe the faces of 6 dead teammates who'd taught her never to run from a fight. "Call them," she said. "I'll wait." Hutchins dialed, put the phone to his ear. The crowd shifted, murmured. This had gone from entertainment to something else, something serious. Bennett pushed through to the front. "Sir, maybe we should—" "Not now, Bennett." Holloway moved forward too, slowly. His weathered face showed no expression, but his mind worked through the evidence. Ghost Protocol, MARSOC Inc., Tier 1 shooting skills, 47-second blindfolded field strip, joint lock technique. This woman wasn't stolen valor. She was the real thing, which meant someone had seriously screwed up. The military police arrived in 8 minutes. 2 vehicles, 4 MPs, professional expressions that revealed nothing. But before they could begin their investigation, another car pulled up to the range. A black SUV with base commander plates. Colonel Patricia Hammond stepped out. She was 5'7" with iron-gray hair pulled into a tight bun. 45 years old with a slight limp from a combat injury in Fallujah. Her uniform was crisp despite the mountain wind, and when she walked, everyone straightened unconsciously. "What the hell is going on at my range?" Hutchins snapped to attention. "Ma'am, we have a situation. This civilian," he gestured to Riley, "has been impersonating military personnel. She has what appears to be a MARSOC unit tattoo and demonstrated skills that suggest stolen valor." Hammond's eyes moved to Riley, measured her. "Your name?" "Riley Vaughn, ma'am." "You work here?" "Yes, ma'am. Maintenance division, civilian contractor." Hammond turned to the senior MP. "Pull her file, everything, employment records, background check, security clearance." The MP moved to his vehicle, accessed the laptop mounted inside. 2 minutes of typing. His expression changed. "Ma'am, you should see this." Hammond walked over, read the screen. Her face remained neutral, but Holloway saw her shoulders tense slightly. "This clearance level," Hammond said quietly, "TS/SCI? Top secret, sensitive compartmental information? That's not maintenance contractor level." "Exactly," Cole said triumphantly. "She's lying on federal documents." "Or," Hammond said, her voice sharp enough to cut steel, "she has legitimate clearance from previous employment that hasn't been downgraded." She looked at Riley. "What's your previous employer listed as?" Riley met her eyes. "Department of Defense. Classification restricted, ma'am." "That's convenient," Park muttered. Hammond ignored her. "The MP report shows employment gaps, 3 years with no listed employer. Standard cover for classified assignments." She stepped closer to Riley. "I'm going to ask you directly, and you will answer me truthfully. Have you ever served in the United States military?" Riley's jaw worked. Everyone leaned forward. Phones captured every frame. "I'm not authorized to discuss my previous employment without proper SIFE access and confirmed need-to-know clearance, ma'am." That language, Holloway heard it. Hammond definitely heard it. That wasn't something civilians knew. SCIF, Sensitive Compartmented Information Facility. Need to know clearance. Those were operational security protocols that got drilled into military personnel. Ma'am, Hutchins said, she's clearly been trained to use that language to avoid questions. This is exactly what stolen valor looks like. Lieutenant Commander, you will be silent until I address you directly. Hammond pulled out her phone. I'm making a call. Everyone stays here. She walked 20 feet away, dialed a number, spoke in low tones. The conversation lasted 4 minutes. Riley watched her, face carefully blank, but Holloway noticed her hands. They'd formed fists. Not aggressive, defensive, like someone preparing for impact. Hammond returned, her expression unreadable. I've contacted MARSOC headquarters at Camp Lejeune. They're running verification through their personnel database. This will take approximately 10 minutes. 10 minutes? Cole protested. Ma'am, she could run. She's not running. Hammond looked at Riley. Are you? No, ma'am. Sit down. Over there. Hammond pointed to a bench near the control booth. Riley sat. The crowd maintained distance, forming a loose semicircle. MPs positioned themselves strategically, not overtly guarding her, but close enough to respond if needed. Hutchins approached Hammond. Ma'am, with respect, this woman has been disrupting training all morning. Even if she has some kind of clearance, she's been misrepresenting herself. Has she? Hammond's tone was ice. Or have you been assuming things about her based on her current position? She corrected me on weapon identification, caught a rifle like a trained operator, shot expert level on every test. And your response was to escalate challenges until she demonstrated skills that made you uncomfortable. Hammond's eyes narrowed. Tell me, Lieutenant Commander, why did you feel the need to publicly humiliate someone doing their job? Hutchins's face flushed. I didn't. There are 70 witnesses here and probably 40 videos already uploaded to social media. Don't lie to me. Bennett spoke up. Ma'am, the Lieutenant Commander has been antagonizing Miss Vaughn since this morning. He dumped her tools, mocked her knowledge, and Staff Sergeant Cole spilled coffee on her deliberately. Bennett, shut your mouth, Cole snapped. No, Hammond said. Lance Corporal, continue. Bennett swallowed hard but maintained eye contact with Hammond. Ma'am, she never claimed anything. She was just doing her job. They pushed her into demonstrating skills, and when she did, they accused her of crimes. Hammond looked at the crowd. Anyone else witness this? Slowly, hands went up. More than half the people present. Hutchins's face had gone from flushed to pale. The wait stretched. 5 minutes. 7. Riley sat on the bench, staring at the mountains in the distance. Her breathing remained controlled, but Holloway saw the micro-expressions crossing her face. Pain, guilt, something that looked like grief. At minute 9, Hammond's phone rang. She answered, listened. Her expression shifted. Surprise, then something that might have been respect. Understood. Thank you, sir. She ended the call. Stood silent for a moment, looking at Riley with new eyes. Then she walked over. Stopped directly in front of the bench. Stand up, Hammond said. Riley stood. State your full name and rank. The range went absolutely silent. Even the wind seemed to pause. Riley's voice was quiet but clear. Corporal Riley Vaughn, United States Marine Corps, MARSOC Critical Skills Operator, 2nd Marine Raider Battalion. Someone in the crowd gasped. Hutchins took a step back like he'd been struck. Current status? Hammond asked. Medical retirement pending, ma'am. Terminal leave. Separation date December 2024. Service record. Riley's eyes stayed fixed on a point past Hammond's shoulder. 6 years active duty. Force Recon, then MARSOC Selection 2021. 3 combat deployments. Afghanistan, Syria, Niger. Her voice dropped slightly. Silver Star. Bronze Star with Valor. Purple Heart. The silence was absolute. 80 people, not one breathing. Operation Silent Viper? Hammond asked, her voice softer now. Riley's face went pale. Her hands trembled before she clenched them tight.
Yes, ma'am. I read the after-action report. Hammond's voice carried genuine sympathy. I'm very sorry for your loss, Corporal. Riley said nothing. Her jaw was locked tight, eyes distant. Holloway recognized that look. She was somewhere else. Syria, 2023, watching her team die. Hammond turned to address the crowd. For those who don't know, Operation Silent Viper was a classified counter-ISIS mission in Syria last year. A 6-person MARSOC team was ambushed during a sniper elimination operation. 5 Marines and 1 Navy corps
were killed in action. 1 Marine survived after holding her position for 14 hours, eliminating 17 enemy combatants using Ghost Protocol, a Tier 1 technique for silent sniper operations. She looked at Hutchins. That Marine is standing in front of you, and you spent the morning humiliating her. Hutchins' mouth opened, closed. No words came out. Ghost Protocol, Holloway said quietly, is only taught to elite counter-sniper operators. I've seen it twice in 28 years. He looked at Riley with open respect. You used it on that last shot, the Barrett. That's why there was no muzzle rise compensation. That's why your position was absolutely still. Riley's eyes found his. A flicker of acknowledgement passed between 2 warriors who understood things civilians never would. Park's voice was barely a whisper. We accused a Silver Star recipient of stolen valor. Yes, Hammond said coldly. You did. And you, she pointed at Cole, assaulted her when she reacted defensively to being grabbed. Ma'am, I didn't know. Cole started. That's the problem, Staff Sergeant. You didn't know. You assumed. You judged based on appearance and position rather than observing the evidence in front of you. She turned to Hutchins. Lieutenant Commander Derek Hutchins, you are hereby relieved of your instructor position effective immediately. A formal letter of reprimand will be placed in your permanent record. You will be reassigned to administrative duties pending a full investigation into your conduct. Ma'am, you created a hostile work environment. You targeted a decorated combat veteran. And you failed spectacularly to recognize competence because of your own insecurity. Hammond's voice could have frozen fire. You're done teaching. Dismissed. Hutchins stood frozen for 3 seconds. Then he turned and walked away, his shoulders slumped. Hammond turned back to Riley, her expression softening slightly. Corporal Vaughn, I need the full story, not for punishment, for the record. Riley remained standing at attention. Her face had regained some color, but her eyes still carried that distant look. Ma'am, I was medically retired 8 months ago. PTSD diagnosis following Operation Silent Viper. The Corps gave me terminal leave while my discharge paperwork processes. Separation date is December 15th. Why are you here? Working maintenance. I needed to be near military structure, ma'am. Civilian life was... Riley paused, searching for words. Too quiet. Too empty. I couldn't pick up a rifle anymore without seeing their faces. Thought maybe I could serve differently. Keep equipment maintained. Keep people safe that way. Hammond nodded slowly. And you kept your background hidden. Yes, ma'am. I didn't want attention. Didn't want questions about why I survived when they didn't. Didn't want to be treated differently because of what I'd done. Riley's voice cracked slightly. I just wanted to work, to be useful without being reminded every day that I'm the one who came home. The crowd shifted. Some looked away, uncomfortable with the raw emotion. Others leaned in, drawn by the honesty. Tell me about your team, Hammond said gently. Riley closed her eyes. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. Sergeant Jackson, team leader, best tactical mind I've ever seen. He was 29, getting married in 3 months. She swallowed hard. Corporal Torres, comms specialist, 23, sent money home to his mother every month. Lance Corporal Kim, scout observer,
24. Could spot targets nobody else saw. Her hands trembled. She pressed them against her sides. Corporal Ramirez, designated marksman, 26, 3 kids. Staff Sergeant Wright, breacher, 31, 15 years in, was going to retire next year. Her voice broke. Hospital Corpsman Martinez, 27, Navy, could have been a surgeon, chose to stay with us instead. Tears ran down her face now. She didn't wipe them away. The intel said 4 hostiles, routine counter-sniper operation. We infiltrated at 0300, set up overwatch positions by 0500. Then at 0647, they hit us from 3 sides. 30-plus fighters, RPGs, heavy machine guns. They'd been waiting. The range was absolutely silent. 80 people listening to a story most would never hear. Jackson called for extract, told me to hold the northern position while they consolidated, said he'd come get me when the birds arrived. Riley's voice was hollow now, reciting facts to avoid feeling them. I held position, eliminated threats, used ghost protocol because we couldn't give away our locations. 17 confirmed kills over 14 hours. But the extract never came for them, Hammond said quietly. RPG hit their position at 11:34 hours. Direct impact. The building collapsed. Riley opened her eyes. They were...
She held, but her voice steadied. I heard Jackson on comms. He said... She stopped, breathed. He said, Ghost, you stay silent. You stay alive. That's an order. Then the line went dead. Holloway's own eyes were wet now. Others in the crowd wiped their faces. I held position until 2015 hours, until reinforcements arrived. Eliminated every hostile who tried to reach the collapsed building. When it was finally secure, I went to them. Riley's voice dropped to barely audible. I dug through rubble for 6 hours, found all 6, brought each of them out. She looked at Hammond directly. They were better than me, ma'am. Every single one. Better shots, better tactics, better Marines. I don't know why I'm the one standing here. That doesn't make sense. It makes perfect sense, Corporal, Hammond said firmly. You survived because you did your job, because they trained you, because you executed under impossible circumstances. That's not luck. That's exactly what they prepared you for. Doesn't feel that way. It never does. I lost my entire platoon in Fallujah, 23 Marines. I lived because I was 50 meters away checking coordinates. Hammond touched her leg where the limp originated. Shrapnel caught me, but I survived. Spent years wondering why. Eventually realized the answer doesn't matter. What matters is what you do with the time they bought you. Riley nodded but said nothing. Hammond addressed the crowd. Let me be absolutely clear. Corporal Riley Vaughn is a decorated combat veteran who has given more for this country than most of you will in your entire careers. She chose to work here quietly because she's healing from trauma. And instead of respecting her privacy, this command created an environment where she was mocked, antagonized, and assaulted. She looked at Cole and Park specifically. Staff Sergeant Cole, Petty Officer Park, you will each submit written apologies to Corporal Vaughn. You will also complete 20 hours of leadership training focused on respect and recognition of service. Failure to comply will result in formal disciplinary action. Understood? Yes, ma'am, they said in unison, voices subdued. Now, someone get this Marine some water and space. Hammond gestured to the MPs. Clear this area. Show's over. The crowd began dispersing. Slowly, reluctantly, but they moved. Bennett approached Riley. Ma'am, I'm sorry. I should have done more to stop them. Riley looked at the young Marine. 22 years old. Earnest face. Good heart. You tried, Corporal. That took courage. Don't apologize for that. Still feels like I failed. You didn't. You spoke up when others stayed silent. That matters more than you know. Bennett nodded, relief washing over his features. He stood straighter as he walked away. Holloway was next.
He stopped a respectful distance from Riley, then came to attention and saluted. Riley returned it automatically. Master Gunner Sergeant Frank Holloway, 28 years, Force Recon, then Instructor Cadre. His voice was gruff with emotion. I recognized Ghost Protocol on your 4th shot. Should have said something sooner. Should have stopped what was happening. You didn't know the context, Master Guns. I knew enough. I saw Operator Tradecraft and I stayed quiet to see how it played out. He shook his head. That was wrong. You deserved better. We all make tactical decisions. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're not. You're making it right now. Holloway held her gaze. 2 warriors, different generations, same scars. If you ever need anything, Corporal, anything at all, you find me. Thank you, Master Guns. He left. Others came forward. Senior NCOs, officers who'd heard the story. Each offered quiet respect. Some saluted, some just nodded. All of them looked at Riley differently now. Cole approached last. His face was pale, hands shaking slightly. Ma'am, He stopped, started again. There's no excuse for what I did. The coffee, grabbing your arm, all of it. I was wrong. I let ego and prejudice override judgment. Riley studied him, saw genuine shame, saw a man confronting his own failures. Staff Sergeant, you made mistakes, but mistakes can teach us. Question is whether you'll learn from them. I will. I promise you I will. He hesitated. For what it's worth, those shots were incredible. The Barrett at 1,000 meters, I've never seen anything like it. You will. Keep training your students properly, with respect. That's how you honor what happened here today. Cole nodded, saluted, left. Park was last. She approached slowly, arms wrapped around herself. Ma'am, I don't know what to say. I was cruel. I was trying to prove I belonged by putting you down. That was... Her voice broke. That was everything I hate about how women get treated in the military, and I did it to you. Riley's expression.
Petty officer, we all fight battles to prove ourselves. Sometimes we choose the wrong ones. The fact that you recognize that means you can change. I want to be better than what I showed today. Then be better, starting tomorrow. Starting with how you treat the next person who seems invisible. Park wiped her eyes. Thank you, ma'am, for your service, for your grace, for... She gestured helplessly. For everything. Riley nodded. Park walked away. The range was nearly empty now. Just Hammond, Riley, and a few MPs finishing their reports. Hammond approached. Corporal, I'm placing you on paid administrative leave for the next week. You'll have full access to base mental health services. After that, we'll discuss your employment status. Am I being terminated, ma'am? No, but I suspect you might not want to continue in maintenance once word spreads, and it will spread. Hammond's expression was knowing. You'll be offered other positions, training, consulting. Every unit on this base will want your expertise. Riley looked uncertain. I don't know if I can teach, ma'am. Don't know if I can hold a rifle without... You held 4 rifles today, shot expert on every one. That was different. That was proving a point. Training means being responsible for others, means preparing them for what I've seen. I don't know if I'm strong enough for that. Hammond's voice was gentle. You held position for 14 hours, alone. You brought your team home. You're stronger than you think, Corporal. The next 3 days passed in a blur. Riley stayed in her small apartment off base, watching news of the incident spread through military social media. Someone had uploaded video, multiple angles. Within 24 hours, the story had gone viral. Decorated Marine working maintenance, humiliated and vindicated in the same morning. The comments sections exploded. Veterans sharing their own stories of being underestimated. Active duty personnel debating ghost protocol techniques. Civilian supporters demanding better treatment for wounded warriors transitioning to civilian life. Riley's phone rang constantly. She ignored it. On day 4, Hammond called. Corporal, I need you to come to my office. 1,400 hours, non-negotiable. Riley arrived 15 minutes early.
Hammond's aide showed her in immediately. The office was sparse, military efficient. Photos on the walls showed Hammond's career: rifle platoon commander in Iraq, company commander in Afghanistan, battalion operations officer in Syria. A Purple Heart sat in a frame beside her Marine Corps Combat Action ribbon. "Sit," Hammond said. Riley sat. "I've received 47 requests for your services in the past 3 days, ranging from marksmanship consultant to MARSOC liaison to full instructor position." Hammond slid a folder across the desk. "These are the formal offers." Riley didn't open it. "Ma'am, I appreciate the consideration, but I'm not ready to—" "I'm not asking what you're ready for. I'm telling you what's happening." Hammond's tone was firm but not unkind. "You became a symbol, Corporal, whether you wanted it or not. Wounded veteran, female operator, humiliated, then vindicated. The story resonates. Now you have a choice: hide from it or use it. I didn't ask for this. Neither did I when my platoon died. Neither did any of us who survived when we shouldn't have. But we got it anyway. Question is what we do with it. Those 6 Marines didn't die so you could hide in maintenance sheds. They died completing a mission. Your mission now is to honor that, by being visible, by showing what they trained you to become." Riley's jaw tightened. "That's not fair." "No, it's not. Nothing about this is fair." Hammond's voice softened. "But it's reality, and you're strong enough to handle it." Silence filled the office. Riley stared at the folder, finally opened it, skimmed the first few offers: training positions, consultant roles, speaking engagements, all of them well paid, all of them public. "I'll think about it," Riley said quietly. "You have until Monday. Meanwhile, there's something else." Hammond checked her watch. "In approximately 5 minutes, Staff Sergeant Cole and Petty Officer Park will arrive. They've completed their written apologies and leadership training. They've requested to deliver their apologies in person. You're not obligated to accept, but I think you should hear them." "What about Hutchins?" "Lieutenant Commander Hutchins has been reassigned to a desk position at Camp Pendleton. His instructor certification has been revoked. He submitted a written apology through official channels, but didn't request to meet face-to-face." Hammond's expression suggested what she thought of that. Coward's way out, but not surprising. A knock at the door. Hammond's aide. "End it." Cole and Park entered, both in dress uniforms. Both looked like they'd aged years in 4 days. "Ma'am." They stood at attention before Hammond's desk. "At ease. You're here for Corporal Vaughn, not me. Proceed." They turned to Riley. Cole spoke first. "Ma'am, I've spent the past 4 days thinking about what I did, about why I did it, about what kind of Marine acts that way toward anyone, let alone a combat veteran." He held out an envelope. "I've written everything down, but the summary is this. I was wrong. Not just wrong in the moment, wrong in my fundamental approach. I let insecurity and bias override the values I claim to uphold." Riley took the envelope. "What changed, Staff Sergeant?" Honest answer: getting called out publicly, facing consequences, realizing my career could end because of my own stupidity. Cole met her eyes. "But also, I went back and watched the videos, really watched them. Saw your face when Park kicked your toolbox. Saw how you controlled yourself when I spilled coffee on you. That level of discipline, that's not something you learn from dating a grunt. That's combat-forged self-control." He paused. "I should have recognized it, should have seen what was right in front of me. Instead, I saw what I expected to see. That's on me. And I'm sorry, truly sorry." Riley studied him, saw sincerity, saw a man who'd been forced to confront uncomfortable truths about himself. "Apology accepted, Staff Sergeant. What happens now is up to you. You can go back to who you were, or you can become someone better. I hope you choose better." "I will, ma'am. You have my word." Park stepped forward. Her hands trembled as she held out her own envelope. "Ma'am, I don't have Cole's excuse of not knowing. I'm a woman in Special Operations Support. I know exactly what it's like to be dismissed, underestimated, treated as less than. And I did all of that to you. Her voice cracked. I became the thing I hate most. Why? Riley asked. Not accusatory, genuinely curious. Because it felt safer to be on the attack than the defense. Because putting you down made me feel elevated. Because, Park wiped her eyes. Because I've spent 3 years proving I'm tough enough, hard enough, good enough. I thought that's what it took to survive. And now? Now I know that's garbage. Real strength is what you showed. Taking abuse without retaliating. Demonstrating competence without arrogance. Offering grace to people who don't deserve it. Park's voice steadied. I watched you forgive Cole. Watched you encourage Bennett. Even after everything, you treated us with more dignity than we showed you. That's the kind of leader I want to be. Riley stood, walked to Park, looked up at the woman who was 4 inches taller. Petty officer, being hard isn't wrong. Combat requires hardness. But hardness without compassion becomes cruelty. The best operators I've known, including the ones I lost, they were hard as steel when necessary and gentle as healers when appropriate. That's the balance. Park nodded, tears flowing freely now. How do I find that balance? By remembering this moment. By choosing differently next time. By mentoring younger women the way you wish you'd been mentored. Riley held out her hand. And by forgiving yourself. Guilt is useful only if it drives change. Park shook her hand, held it for a moment. Thank you, ma'am, for your service, for your grace, for showing me what strength really looks like. They left. Riley returned to her seat, holding 2 envelopes she'd probably never open. Well handled, Hammond said. They're good people who made bad choices. That's different than bad people making expected choices. Agreed. Which brings us to Bennett, Hammond smiled slightly. Lance Corporal Troy Bennett, the one person who tried to intervene. I'm promoting him to corporal effective immediately, giving him a commendation for moral courage. He'll be presented at formation next week. I'd like you to be there. Ma'am, not a request, Corporal. That young Marine stood up when everyone else stayed silent. He deserves to see you there, to know his choice mattered. Riley nodded slowly. Understood. Good. Now, there's one more thing. Hammond pulled out another folder. I've received word from Camp Lejeune. MARSOC wants to offer you a civilian consultant position. You'd work with operators preparing for deployment, share lessons learned, help develop training protocols. No field work, no direct combat application, just teaching. Riley's throat tightened. Teaching the things that kept me alive while my team died. Teaching the things that might keep the next team alive. All of them. Hammond's voice was gentle but firm. Riley, your team didn't fail. The mission succeeded. Target eliminated. You survived to continue fighting.
It's what they trained for. That's what they wanted. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Because I've read Sergeant Jackson's after-action reports from previous operations. Read his recommendations for your promotion. He wrote, Hammond checked her computer, quote, Corporal Vaughn demonstrates exceptional tactical acumen and teaching ability. She breaks down complex problems into digestible components and ensures junior operators understand not just the how, but the why. Recommend advancement to instructor cadre. End quote. Riley's vision blurred. Jackson had written that 6 months before Syria. She'd never known. He saw your potential as a teacher, Hammond said. He wanted you in that role. Honor that by accepting it. I don't know if I can. You held position for 14 hours alone. You can do anything. Hammond closed the folder. You don't have to decide today, but stop hiding from what you're capable of. Those 6 Marines didn't save you so you could waste the gift they gave you. Riley sat in silence. Outside, the mountain wind rattled the windows. Inside, the weight of 6 ghosts pressed against her shoulders. Finally, she spoke. When's Bennett's promotion ceremony? Next Friday, 1,000 hours. I'll be there. Good. And Riley?
Hammond's voice carried something that might have been pride. Welcome back to the fight. Different battlefield, same mission. Making Marines better. Your team would approve. Riley stood, saluted. Hammond returned it with precision. As Riley left the office, she felt something shift inside her. Not healing, that would take years. But maybe the beginning of purpose. Maybe the first step toward making her survival mean something beyond guilt. 3 weeks later. The morning air at Bridgeport carried the sharp bite of early November. Temperature had dropped into the 20s overnight, and frost covered the range equipment in delicate crystalline patterns. Riley arrived at 06:30, earlier than necessary, because old habits died hard. She wasn't wearing maintenance coveralls anymore. The civilian consultant position came with no uniform requirement, but Riley had chosen carefully. Practical hiking pants, a dark green fleece jacket, boots built for mountain terrain. Professional but not military. Distinct but not attention-seeking. She'd accepted the training consultant role, not the MARSOC position. That felt too big, too fast. But Hammond had created a local position, marksmanship specialist for students struggling with qualification standards. Low profile, direct impact, teaching one-on-one rather than standing before crowds. Today was her 3rd week. The work was harder than she'd expected, not physically but emotionally. Every time she picked up a rifle to demonstrate technique, she saw Jackson's hands adjusting her grip, heard Torres laughing about windage calculations, felt Kim's presence beside her, calling corrections. But she was doing it, teaching young Marines and sailors the fundamentals that might keep them alive, breaking down complex shooting problems into manageable steps, just like Jackson had taught her. A figure approached from the parking area. Young Marine, maybe 20 years old, carrying a rifle case with hesitant steps. Private First Class Emma Wright. No relation to Staff Sergeant Wright from Riley's team, but the shared name hit Riley like a punch the first time she'd read the training roster. Ma'am. Wright stopped a respectful distance away. Thank you for agreeing to work with me. You're not late, so that's a good start. Riley gestured toward the range. What's your qualification issue? I can't seem to hit anything past 300 meters. Failed qual twice. They're saying if I don't pass next week, I might get reclassed out of infantry. Wright's voice carried frustration and fear. Riley had reviewed Wright's scorecards. The pattern was clear. Tight groups at close range, wild dispersion at distance. Classic indication of fundamentals breaking down under the stress of longer shots. Show me your setup. 300-meter line. They walked to position. Riley laid out her gear with careful precision. Good sign. Respected the equipment. She assumed prone position, settled the M4 into her shoulder, acquired the target. Riley watched, saw the problem immediately. Fire when ready. Wright took the shot. Missed left by 8 inches. Again. Another shot. Missed right by 6 inches. Stop. Riley knelt beside her. Your fundamentals at 100 meters are solid. I saw your scorecard. So what changes when you shoot distance? I don't know, ma'am. I think about the distance and I tense up. You're anticipating recoil, flinching before the shot breaks. Your mind sees the longer distance, decides it's
order, and your body responds by trying to control what should be an unconscious process. Riley adjusted Wright's elbow position. Shooting isn't about controlling the rifle. It's about creating the conditions for the rifle to do its job. Your job is platform. The weapon's job is accuracy. How do I stop anticipating? By trusting your training, by accepting that you can't control the bullet once it leaves the barrel. All you control is your body in the moment before trigger press. Riley demonstrated, taking position herself. Watch. She settled into stance, acquired the 300-meter target, controlled her breathing. 4 counts in, hold, 4 counts out. Found the pause between breaths where the body stilled completely. For a moment, the ghosts were there. Jackson beside her, whispering corrections. Torres calling wind. Kim confirming range. The weight of loss pressed against her chest. She pressed through it. Literally, pressed the trigger with steady rearward pressure. The rifle fired. Downrange, the target flashed. Center mass. Your breathing stopped, said. Completely. I've never seen anyone that still.
That's the goal. Find the pause. Trust it. Let the shot happen rather than making it happen. Riley stood, handed the rifle back. Your turn. But this time, close your eyes. Ma'am? Close your eyes. You're going to dry fire first. No ammunition. Just practice the trigger press without worrying about impact. Wright looked uncertain but complied. She settled into position, closed her eyes, focused on her breathing. Feel your heartbeat, Riley said quietly. Don't fight it. Just notice it. Notice how your body moves with each pulse. Now find the space between pulses. That's where the shot lives. Wright's breathing steadied. Her body relaxed incrementally. Now press. Smooth. Straight back, like pressing a button. The trigger clicked. Wright's position didn't shift. Again. Click. Still stable. 5 more times. Wright dry-fired 5 repetitions. Each one clean. No anticipation, no flinch. Now open your eyes. Load 1 round. Don't think about the target. Just repeat exactly what you did with your eyes closed. Wright loaded. Celled. Breathed. Found the pause. Pressed. The rifle fired. Target flashed. 2 inches from center. Wright's eyes went wide. I hit it. You trusted the process. That's all shooting is. Trusting that fundamentals work even when your brain says they won't. Riley smiled. Do it 9 more times. Prove to yourself it wasn't luck. Wright fired 9 more rounds. 8 hits, 1 miss. The miss was still on target, just outer ring. When she finished, tears ran down her face. I thought I was going to fail out. Thought I wasn't good enough. You were always good enough. You just needed to stop fighting yourself. Riley helped her stand. Qualification next week. You'll pass. And when you do, remember this. The distance doesn't change the fundamentals. Neither does fear. Neither does pressure. Fundamentals work because they're built on physics and biology. Trust them. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Wright gathered her gear and left, walking taller than she'd arrived. Holloway emerged from the control booth where he'd been observing. That was good teaching. She did the work. I just helped her see what was blocking her. Same thing Jackson did for you, I'd wager. Riley nodded. Every operator I learned from. They broke down the complex until it became simple. That's the gift. Making the impossible feel achievable. You're good at it. Seen you work with 6 students this week. All of them improved. Holloway pulled out his phone, showed her something. Got a message from Camp Lejeune. MARSOC still wants you. They've upped the offer. Full civilian instructor position, teaching Ghost Protocol to new candidates. Riley's stomach tightened. I'm not ready for that. Maybe, but you're heading that direction. Can see it in how you teach. You're not just going through motions anymore. You're investing. He pocketed the phone. Your team would be proud. You didn't know them. Didn't have to. Know you. Know what you became because of them. That's their legacy. Holloway headed toward his truck. Paused. Think about it. Not saying accept now, but don't reject it out of fear. They trained you for bigger things than basic marksmanship. He left. Riley stood alone at the range, surrounded by mountains and ghosts. Her phone buzzed. Text from Bennett. Promotion ceremony today was incredible. Thank you for being there. Means everything. She'd attended his ceremony the previous Friday. Watched Colonel Hammond pin on his new rank. Listened to the citation for moral courage. Saw a young Marine learn that doing the right thing mattered, even when it was hard. Another text, this one from an unknown number. Ma'am, this is P.S. C. Wright. Just wanted to say again, thank you. You didn't just teach me to shoot. You taught me to trust myself. That's bigger than qualification. Riley read it twice. Felt something warm break through the constant cold of survivor's guilt. Maybe Hammond was right. Maybe this was the mission now. Not operations, not direct action, but teaching, preparing others, giving them the tools that Jackson, Torres, Kim, Ramirez, Wright, and Martinez had given her. She walked to the 800-meter line, the same line where she demonstrated the impossible 3 weeks ago, where she'd blown her cover and changed everything. She sat on the cold concrete, looked downrange at the target where her shots had clustered. Wind moved across the range, carrying the smell of pine and frost. Jackson, she said quietly to the empty air. Torres, Kim, Ramirez, Wright, Martinez. I'm still here. Still don't know why, but I'm trying to make it count. Trying to pass on what you taught me. Hope that's enough. Hope that makes the cost worth something. The wind was her only answer. She pulled out her phone, opened her email, found the message from MARSOC headquarters, read the full offer, teaching advanced counter-sniper techniques to Tier 1 candidates, sharing lessons learned from Operation Silent Viper, developing new training protocols based on her 14-hour solo defense. Her finger hovered over the reply button. Not today, but maybe soon. Maybe when the nightmares came less frequently. When she could hold a rifle without seeing 6 faces. When teaching felt less like borrowing authority she hadn't earned, and more like honoring a legacy she'd been entrusted with. She stood, walked back toward the parking area. Halfway there, she passed a group of students heading to the range for morning training. They recognized her, straightened unconsciously, offered respectful nods. One of them, a young woman who couldn't be older than 19, stopped. "Ma'am, are you Corporal Vaughn, the one from the video?" Riley considered deflecting, considered staying invisible. But that wasn't an option anymore. Hammond was right. She'd become a symbol whether she wanted it or not. "Yes. Ma'am, I just wanted to say, I was thinking about dropping out. Thought I didn't belong here. Then I saw what you did, saw how you handled everything. Made me realize I can do this too." The young woman's voice carried determination. "Thank you for showing us what's possible." Riley's throat tightened. "What's your name?" "Private Chen, ma'am." "Private Chen, you belong here if you want to belong here. Nobody else gets to decide that. Do the work. Master the fundamentals. Don't let anyone make you feel small." Riley held her gaze. "And when you succeed, remember to lift up the next person who's struggling. That's how we honor those who lifted us." "Yes, ma'am, I will." Chen rejoined her group. They continued toward the range, talking quietly among themselves. Riley watched them go. Saw herself at 19, terrified and determined, trying to prove she could do the impossible. Saw Jackson taking time to teach her. Torres making her laugh when the training got brutal. Kim showing her tricks nobody else would share. Maybe that was the answer. Maybe the reason she survived wasn't for anything grand or cosmic. Maybe it was just to do for others what had been done for her. Teach, guide, lift up. She got in her truck, started the engine. The heater blasted cold air that would eventually warm up. On the passenger seat sat a folder, the MARSOC offer. Beside it, another folder with lesson plans for next week's students. She'd keep teaching here, keep working one-on-one with the students who struggled. But eventually, maybe in a few months, maybe in a year, she'd open that MARSOC folder. She'd teach Ghost Protocol to the next generation of operators, share the techniques that had kept her alive, tell the story of 6 Marines who died doing their job with perfect honor. Not today, but soon. For now, she'll take it one student at a time, one shot at a time, one day at a time. She drove away from the range as the sun climbed higher over the mountains. In her rearview mirror, the facility grew smaller. New students arrived to train. The cycle continued. And somewhere, in memory and in mountains, 6 Marines watched, not judging, not demanding, just waiting for her to be ready. She would be. Eventually. Until then, she'll do the work, teach the fundamentals, honor the legacy. That was enough. That had to be enough. If this story moved you, remember, never judge someone by their current position. You don't know what battles they've already fought. You don't know what they've sacrificed. Respect is earned through action, but basic human dignity should be freely given. Share this story. Honor all who serve in silence. Their sacrifices are not forgotten.